The Chicago O'Hare Airport Lounge was my sanctuary that Tuesday evening. After 3 consecutive red-eye flights between Seattle and Miami for work, I'd finally splurged on a day pass to escape the chaos of Terminal 3. The leather chairs were worn but comfortable, the lighting was dim and peaceful, and the gentle hum of conversations created the perfect white noise for catching up on emails. I was nursing my second cup of coffee, watching the October rain streak down the floor-to-ceiling windows, when she walked in. She couldn't have been older than 30, with auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun and the kind of tired eyes I recognized from my own reflection after weeks of business travel. She wore a simple black sweater and jeans, nothing that would make her stand out in a crowd. But something about the way she moved, quick, nervous glances around the room, fingers constantly adjusting her phone case, made me pay attention. She chose a seat 3 tables away from mine, close enough that I could hear her when she answered her phone on the second ring. "Yes, I'm here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Flight 847 to Denver, just like we planned." I tried to focus on my laptop screen, but her tone was unsettling. There was something desperate in it, something that made the hair on my arms stand up. "No, he doesn't know," she continued, glancing around the lounge again. "He thinks it's just a work conference. 3 days in Colorado, just like I told him." The rain outside grew heavier, drumming against the windows. A few other travelers moved through the lounge, a businessman in a rumpled suit, an elderly couple sharing a sandwich, a woman in scrubs who looked like she was coming off a long shift. Normal people living normal lives, unlike whatever drama was unfolding 3 tables away from me. "Listen to me carefully," the auburn-haired woman said, her voice dropping even lower. "He'll be free after the trip. You just need to be patient until Thursday night." My fingers froze over my keyboard. Free after the trip? What did that mean? She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. When she spoke again, her voice cracked slightly. "I know it's hard, but this is the only way. Once I'm back from Denver, everything changes. He won't be able to hurt you anymore." The coffee in my mouth suddenly tasted bitter. I set the cup down, my mind racing. Was I overhearing something I shouldn't? Was someone in danger? "Mom, I have to go," she said, and that single word, "Mom," changed everything. This wasn't some criminal conspiracy. This was a daughter talking to her mother about escaping something. Someone. The woman ended the call and immediately buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook slightly and I realized she was crying. The confident, determined voice from the phone call was gone, replaced by someone who looked utterly exhausted and scared. I found myself torn between the urge to help and the knowledge that I was eavesdropping on what was clearly a private, painful moment. The business traveler in me said to mind my own business, finish my emails and catch my flight to Portland. But something deeper, more human, wouldn't let me look away. She pulled a tissue from her purse and wiped her eyes, checking her phone for the time. 7:23 p.m. My own flight wasn't until 9:15, but hers to Denver was probably boarding soon. As if on cue, the intercom crackled to life. "Now boarding Flight 847 to Denver International Airport. All passengers, please proceed to Gate B15. The woman stood up quickly, gathering her small carry-on bag and purse. But as she turned to leave, her phone slipped from her hands and skittered across the floor, coming to rest near my feet. I stood up without thinking, picking up the phone. The screen was cracked but still functional, and I could see a text message notification from someone named Mom. "Be careful, sweetheart. Call me when you land." "Thank you," she said as I handed her the phone. Up close, I could see the dark circles under her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly as she took the device. "Are you okay?" The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. She looked at me, then really looked at me, as if trying to decide whether I was safe. For a moment I thought she might tell me everything. Instead she gave me a weak smile. "I will be," she said. "After Thursday night, I will be." Then she was gone, walking quickly toward the gate, leaving me standing in the lounge with more questions than answers and a growing certainty that I'd just witnessed the beginning of something that would change at least 2 lives forever. I couldn't focus on my flight to Portland that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the exhaustion, the fear, but also the determination. The way she'd said, "He won't be able to hurt you anymore," kept replaying in my mind. By the time I landed at PDX at 11:47 p.m., I'd made a decision that probably wasn't entirely rational. I was going to find out what was happening. My name is Alex Morrison, and I'm a data analyst for a consulting firm that specializes in corporate fraud investigation. I spend my days tracking money trails, identifying patterns in financial records, and essentially being professionally suspicious of everything. My colleagues joke that I can't turn off my investigative instincts, and they're probably right. I took an Uber to my hotel in downtown Portland, but instead of going straight to bed like a normal person, I sat in the lobby with my laptop and started searching. Flight 847 to Denver. That was easy enough to track. It was a United flight that landed at DIA at 9:23 p.m. Mountain Time. But finding one passenger among hundreds? That was going to be harder. I started with what I knew. Auburn hair, early 30s, flying alone, mentioned a 3-day work conference. The conversation suggested she was helping someone escape an abusive situation, possibly her mother. The timeline indicated that whatever was supposed to happen would occur on Thursday night. It was a long shot, but I searched social media for recent posts about work conferences in Denver. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, anything that might give me a lead. After 2 hours, I had a list of 12 different conferences and corporate events happening in Denver that week, ranging from tech summits to healthcare conferences. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work. I know how that sounds, taking a personal day to investigate a stranger I'd overheard in an airport lounge. But something about her desperation had gotten under my skin. Maybe it was because my sister had been in an abusive relationship years ago, and I'd seen firsthand how isolating and terrifying that experience could be. I drove to a coffee shop in Pearl District and continued my search. The healthcare angle felt most promising. She'd had the exhausted look of someone in a high-stress medical profession, and there was a major nursing conference at the Denver Convention Center that week. That's when I found her. The conference website had a public attendee list, and there it was, Rebecca Torres, RN, Seattle Children's Hospital. The professional headshot was small, but I was almost certain it was her. Same auburn hair, same tired eyes, though the photo had been taken when she was smiling. A quick search revealed more. Rebecca Torres, 29, registered nurse specializing in pediatric oncology. She'd been working at Seattle Children's for 4 years, had a spotless professional record, and according to one local news article from 2 years ago, had been recognized for her work with families dealing with childhood cancer. But it was what I found next that made my blood run cold. A police report from 6 months ago. Domestic disturbance call, 2247 Pine Street, Apartment 4B, Seattle, Washington. Officers responded to noise complaint. No charges filed. Residents, Rebecca Torres and Anthony Vega. Anthony Vega. I searched that name and found a construction worker, 34, with a history of minor assaults and one domestic violence charge that had been dropped when the victim, a previous girlfriend, had refused to testify. I sat back in my chair, staring at my laptop screen. The pieces were falling into place. Rebecca was in an abusive relationship with Anthony Vega. She'd planned this Denver trip as a cover story while she helped someone, her mother, escape from something or someone. The conversation I'd overheard wasn't about freeing her mother from Rebecca's abuser, but about freeing Rebecca herself. He'll be free after the trip. Free to hurt Rebecca again when she returned from Denver, unless something changed. But what was supposed to happen on Thursday night? I spent the rest of Wednesday digging deeper into Anthony Vega's background. 2 arrests for bar fights, 1 for disorderly conduct, and that domestic violence charge. His social media was full of angry rants about women, immigrants, and the system. The kind of guy who collected grievances like other people collected stamps. More importantly, I found his work schedule. Vega worked for Patterson Construction, and according to their project timeline posted online, he was scheduled to work a night shift on Thursday, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., on a highway project outside of Seattle. Thursday night. The night Rebecca would return from Denver. The night she told her mother, he'll be free. Free to come home to an empty apartment while Rebecca was still safely at 30,000 feet, flying back from a conference that was actually an elaborate escape plan. But escape to where? And what happened if Anthony figured out what was really going on? I called Seattle Children's Hospital that afternoon, claiming to be a colleague from Portland General who needed to reach Rebecca about a patient transfer. The receptionist was friendly but firm. Rebecca was at a conference in Denver and wouldn't be back until Friday morning. Oh, that nursing conference? I said, fishing for confirmation. She mentioned she was really looking forward to it. Well, I hope she's getting some rest, the receptionist said. She's been working double shifts for weeks trying to save up for, well, I probably shouldn't say. But she's a good nurse. We'll miss her when she transfers. Transfer. Rebecca wasn't just planning to escape for a few days. She was leaving Seattle entirely. As I hung up the phone, I realized I was in deeper than I'd intended. I wasn't just a curious bystander anymore. I was invested in the outcome of this story, and I had a growing fear that something was going to go wrong. That's when I decided to do something that probably crossed several legal and ethical lines. I booked a flight to Seattle for Thursday morning. I landed at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport on Thursday at 10:23 a.m., with no real plan beyond a vague notion that I needed to be there when everything went down. I'd called in sick again, drained half my savings account for last-minute flights, and was probably stalking a stranger based on an overheard phone conversation. By any reasonable measure, I was acting irrationally. But reasonable had gone out the window the moment I'd seen Rebecca crying in that airport lounge. I rented a car and drove to the Capitol Hill neighborhood where Rebecca lived. 2247 Pine Street was a converted craftsman house split into 4 apartments, the kind of place where young professionals lived while saving money for something better. The building was painted sage green with white trim, and there were small gardens in front of each unit. Apartment 4B was on the 2nd floor, accessible by an external staircase. I parked across the street and waited, feeling increasingly foolish. What was I expecting to accomplish? Was I going to knock on Anthony Vega's door and say, "Excuse me, I think your girlfriend is leaving you," and I overheard the whole thing in an airport lounge? At 11:47 a.m. I got my answer. A battered Ford F-150 pulled into the driveway and Anthony Vega got out. He was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5 feet 8 inches, wiry build, with the kind of nervous energy that suggested he was always looking for a fight. He wore work boots, jeans, and a flannel shirt that had seen better days. He bounded up the stairs to 4B and let himself in with a key. 5 minutes later he was back outside, this time carrying a large black garbage bag and looking agitated. I watched him throw the bag into the truck bed, then go back upstairs. This time he stayed longer, maybe 15 minutes, before emerging with 2 more bags and a cardboard box. He was packing. Or more accurately, he was packing Rebecca's things. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Rebecca. I got your number from the hospital." The receptionist said someone called asking about me. Who is this? I stared at the phone, realizing I'd made a crucial mistake. When I'd called Seattle Children's, I'd given them my real name and number in case they needed to call me back about the fictional patient transfer. I typed quickly, "This is going to sound crazy, but I overheard your conversation in the Chicago airport lounge on Tuesday. I was worried about you." The response came back immediately, "Are you insane? Stay away from me." Before I could reply, another message appeared. "Wait. You were in the O'Hare lounge? The guy with the laptop near the windows?" "Yes. I'm sorry for intruding, but I was concerned. I think you might be in danger." A long pause. Then, "Where are you right now?" I hesitated, then decided honesty was the only option. "Outside your apartment. Anthony is here and he's packing your things." "What?" "He's supposed to be at work until 7 p.m. I watched Anthony emerge from the apartment again, this time carrying what looked like a suitcase. "He's loading everything into his truck. How much time do you have before your flight back?" "I'm not flying back. I was supposed to—" God, this is all wrong. He wasn't supposed to know I was gone until tonight. "Rebecca, I think you need to call the police." "No. You don't understand. I have a plan. My mom and we've been planning this for months. There's a restraining order, there's a new job in Portland, there's an apartment. But it all depends on him not knowing until I'm safely gone." I watched Anthony slam the tailgate of his truck shut and pull out his phone. Even from across the street, I could see the angry gestures as he talked to whoever was on the other end. "Rebecca, he knows. Whatever your plan was, he's figured it out. I'm at the airport in Denver. My flight to Portland doesn't leave until 6 p.m. I was supposed to have 8 hours to get my mom and drive to Portland before he came home from work." "Where's your mom now?" "She's at her sister's house in Tacoma. She's been staying there since Tuesday, waiting for my call." Anthony finished his call and got in his truck. Instead of driving away, he just sat there, staring at his phone. "Rebecca, I think he's trying to call you. I turned my phone off after I texted you. Oh God, what am I going to do? If he goes to my aunt's house. What's the address in Tacoma?" She gave it to me and I punched it into my GPS 23 minutes away. "I'm going to drive to your mom," I said, starting my rental car. "I'll make sure she's safe until you can figure out what to do next." "You can't do that. You don't even know me." I pulled away from the curb, watching Anthony's truck in my rearview mirror. He was following me. "Rebecca, he's behind me. I think he saw me watching the apartment." "Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no." "Stay calm. Give me your mom's number. I'm going to call her and tell her to leave your aunt's house right now. Her name is Carmen Reyes." "But Alex, that's your name, right?" "Alex, you need to get away from him. Anthony gets violent when he's angry." I could see the Ford F-152 cars behind me as I merged onto I-5 south toward Tacoma. "I'm not leaving your mom alone with this guy coming. You don't understand. Last time he got really angry, I ended up in the emergency room. He said it was an accident that I fell down the stairs, but all the more reason for me to help. Give me your mom's number, Rebecca. Now. She did, and I immediately called Carmen Reyes while watching Anthony's truck creep closer in my rearview mirror. The rain that had been threatening all morning finally started to fall, making the highway slick and reducing visibility. Mrs. Reyes? This is Alex Morrison. I'm a friend of Rebecca's. You need to leave your sister's house right now and go somewhere safe. Who is this? How did you get this number? Ma'am, your daughter's boyfriend figured out that she's leaving him. He's driving toward Tacoma right now, and I believe he's dangerous. There was a long pause. Rebecca is supposed to call me at 6 tonight. The plan changed. Anthony found out early. Mrs. Reyes, please trust me. Get in your car and drive to the nearest police station. Is Rebecca safe? I glanced in my mirror. Anthony had moved into the left lane and was gaining on me. She's in Denver, so she's safe for now. But you need to move. Okay, I'm getting my purse. That's when Anthony's truck pulled alongside my rental car, and I saw him clearly for the first time. His face was twisted with rage, and he was pointing at me while shouting something I couldn't hear over the rain and road noise. Then he swerved directly into my lane. The impact sent my rental car skidding across 2 lanes of I-5 in the rain. I fought to maintain control as Anthony's truck slammed into my rear quarter panel again, this time hard enough to crack my back window. Mrs. Reyes, are you still there? I shouted into my phone, which had fallen to the floor. Her voice was faint but clear. I'm in my car. I'm driving to the Tacoma police station. Good. Stay on the line. Anthony's truck appeared in my rearview mirror again, engine roaring as he prepared for another ramming attempt. I pressed the accelerator and pulled into the right lane, but he matched my move. This stretch of I-5 was under construction, with concrete barriers on both sides and nowhere to escape. My phone buzzed with another text from Rebecca. I called 911. They're sending units to the highway. Don't try to be a hero. Too late for that advice. Anthony's third attempt to ram me was more calculated. Instead of hitting my rear end, he came alongside and used his truck's superior weight to force me toward the concrete barrier. Sparks flew as my passenger side scraped against the wall, and I realized he wasn't just trying to stop me, he was trying to cause a serious accident. That's when I saw the Washington State Patrol car in my rearview mirror, lights flashing. Anthony saw it too. He immediately backed off and moved into the left lane, trying to look like an innocent motorist caught in traffic. But it was too late. The trooper had seen everything. What happened next was almost anticlimactic. The State Patrol officer pulled both of us over to the shoulder. Anthony tried to claim that I had been driving erratically and that he was just trying to get away from me, but the trooper wasn't buying it. Sir, I observed you ramming this vehicle multiple times, the officer said calmly. You're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon. As they handcuffed Anthony and put him in the back of the patrol car, he screamed at me through the window, "You don't know what you've done. She's my wife. She can't just leave." They're not married, I told the trooper. And she's been planning to leave because he's abusive. The officer nodded. We'll sort it all out at the station. Are you injured? I wasn't, but my rental car was definitely not drivable. The passenger side was scraped up, the rear bumper was hanging off, and the back window was spider-webbed with cracks. While I was giving my statement to the trooper, my phone rang. Rebecca. Alex, are you okay? The police said there was an accident. I'm fine. Anthony's been arrested. Your mom is safe at the Tacoma police station. There was a long pause and then I heard her crying. Not the quiet, desperate tears from the airport lounge, but the kind of crying that comes with relief and exhaustion and the sudden realization that a nightmare is finally over. I can't believe you did this, she said finally. I can't believe a complete stranger put himself in danger for me and my mom. I had a sister in a similar situation, I said. I know what it's like to feel helpless when someone you care about is trapped. What happens now? Now you get on that flight to Portland like you planned. The police have Anthony in custody, and they'll probably hold him at least until Monday for the hearing. Your mom can get her things and meet you in Portland this weekend. But the restraining order, the apartment, my new job, everything was supposed to happen in a specific order. Plans change, I said, watching the tow truck hook up my demolished rental car. The important thing is that you're both safe now. Rebecca's flight landed in Portland at 8:43 p.m. that Thursday night. I know because I was there to meet her at the gate, along with her mother Carmen, who had driven down from Tacoma after giving her statement to the police. The reunion was exactly what you'd expect: tears, hugging, and the kind of conversation that happens when two people realize they've survived something that could have destroyed them. "I still can't believe you did this," Rebecca said as we sat in the airport restaurant afterward. "You could have been killed. So could you if you'd come home to find Anthony waiting in your apartment." Carmen reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Rebecca told me what you overheard in Chicago. About me needing to be patient until Thursday night." I nodded. I thought she was talking about someone else being free after the trip. I didn't realize she meant she would be free. "I've been staying with my sister for 6 months, Carmen explained. "Ever since Anthony hit Rebecca the first time. We've been planning her escape ever since, but it had to be perfect. One chance." "What made you choose that particular week?" Rebecca smiled for the first time since I'd met her. "The nursing conference was real, but I wasn't attending it. I was using it as cover to fly to Denver, then catch a connecting flight to Portland. I had a job interview at OHSU Hospital on Wednesday, and I got the position. I start Monday." "And Anthony's work schedule?" "Thursday night shift was the only time I could guarantee he'd be out of the apartment long enough for Mom to help me get my things. Except he called in sick to work because he was suspicious about my trip." Carmen shook her head. "If Alex hadn't been there." "Let's not think about that," I said. "What matters is that you're both safe and starting over." 6 months later, I got a wedding invitation in the mail. Rebecca Torres was marrying a pediatric surgeon she'd met at OHSU Hospital. The wedding was going to be small, just family and close friends, but she wanted me to be there. I flew to Portland that Saturday in June and watched Rebecca walk down the aisle in a simple white dress, beaming with the kind of happiness that only comes after surviving something terrible. Carmen cried through the entire ceremony, and even I had to wipe my eyes during the vows. At the reception, Rebecca pulled me aside. "I have something for you," she said, handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a simple silver keychain with an engraving. "Sometimes strangers become angels. Thank you for listening. RNC." "You know," she said, "I never asked why you were in that airport lounge in the first place." I laughed. "Wrong place at the right time, I guess. I was flying home from a business trip, tired and just trying to kill time." "Do you still travel for work?" "Not as much. I took a job with a nonprofit that helps domestic violence survivors navigate the legal system. Turns out investigating financial fraud and helping people escape abusive relationships require a lot of the same skills." Rebecca smiled. "That's perfect. You know, there's something I never told you about that night in Chicago." "What's that?" "When I dropped my phone and you picked it up, I was planning to get on that plane and disappear forever. Leave my mom, leave my job, leave everything behind and start completely over somewhere Anthony could never find me." "What changed your mind?" "You asked if I was okay." Just that simple question from a stranger made me realize I didn't have to face this alone. That there were good people in the world who would help if I just asked. As I drove back to the airport that night, I thought about the chain of small decisions that had led to that moment in the Chicago lounge. If I hadn't splurged on the day pass, if I'd chosen a different seat, if I'd been wearing headphones, if I'd minded my own business, Rebecca and Carmen's story might have ended very differently. Sometimes being in the right place at the right time isn't about luck. Sometimes it's about being willing to listen when someone needs to be heard, even if they don't know they're asking for help. The keychain is still on my desk at work, a reminder that the most important investigations aren't always about following money trails or uncovering corporate fraud. Sometimes they're about following your instincts when something doesn't feel right, and being brave enough to act when someone's safety depends on it. Rebecca and Carmen are doing well. Rebecca loves her job at OHSU, and Carmen has become a volunteer advocate for other domestic violence survivors. Anthony Vega served 18 months in prison for the highway incident and the subsequent domestic violence charges that were filed after Rebecca felt safe enough to press charges. And me? I still spend too much time in airport lounges, still notice conversations I probably shouldn't, and still believe that sometimes the best thing you can do for a stranger is simply pay attention. Because you never know when someone's life might depend on it.